Hello, class, and welcome to this lecture in Counseling Families with Alcohol and Other Drug Issues. My name is Dr. Neil Soggie, and I'm your instructor for this course. Within this week, we will just simply be giving you a little bit of an overview of what you can expect to find in the course. We won't be covering the syllabus per se or the specifics of the class assignments. You have the syllabus for that, and I do encourage you to take the time to read through the syllabus. But what I'd like to do today is just kind of walk you through the basics of what we will typically do within this class. So normally what I do within this class, by the way, I should say that I do want you this week to take some time and look through all of the, just kind of peruse through the e-learning course site. Be sure that you read the syllabus. The readings, if you'll notice, are on the course site as well. So everything that you need for this course is there. Just be mindful to take the time and read through everything. Another thing to be mindful of is that the quizzes are not something to be stressed about as long as you are staying up on the readings and the lectures for each week. This is an asynchronous course, a weekly asynchronous course, which basically means this, that each week you have a task to do. And that might be readings and a lecture. Well, it will always be readings and lecture, but then maybe something else, maybe a quiz, maybe an assignment. And it should be done by the Friday evening. Do not let a week go by without engaging in the material. If you do, not only will you be behind, but it will hamper your learning. The best way to learn is to, every couple of days to bite off a little chunk of it and be reminded of it. And that way, all of the learning gets consolidated into your long-term memory, and it's not such an arduous task to learn then. It just naturally gets absorbed into your mind. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is to be sure to always and regularly log in. If you don't log in to the e-learning course site for 14 days, it will actually reset the system, and you'll have to contact IT, the IT department of the college, in order to get your access reestablished for that. So be mindful of that, to always regularly sign in. Now, as we go through this course, and another thing I should remind you of is that the quizzes, as I mentioned, are not all that difficult. They will be they're timed 10-minute quizzes. The thing to keep in mind is don't be doing them on your phone. Don't be doing them when there's potential for distraction. They are timed. You have one opportunity for them. So make sure that you have a good, stable connection, that you are free from distractions, and that you have prepared. And there are some specific things that you can do to prepare. One of them is just a reminder that at the end of every lecture, there is a list of key terms for the week as well as a question. And almost guaranteed that question is going to be on that multiple choice quiz. So, there should be no reason that you don't get 100% on these quizzes. Now, will you get 100%? Well, that's going to depend upon how prepared you are. But just be mindful that this is designed for your success, but it does require you to stay engaged. Now, as we go on, there are some normal things that I will typically do within my lectures. Normally, I'll have a little introduction and overview of what we'll be doing in the class. I'll tell a little story, and then we'll cover three main themes for the week. Typically, they will be 3 parts of a specific approach to family therapy, just because there's a lot of nuance to it. But first we have to introduce kind of the basic concepts. So the first few weeks we'll be introducing some basic concepts, and then we'll dive into some specific theoretical approaches and techniques for counseling. Now, for today, as will be through the tradition of the course of the week, we'll have a story about somebody that's really key to family counseling, and then we'll dive into 3 main themes. Our themes for today, the first one is I want to do a little bit of an overview of family therapy, what family therapy is, and just kind of understand family therapy as a therapeutic approach, the role of family therapy then in addressing substance use disorders, a little bit of the history of family therapy, and some key developments and milestones in the field. And then we'll look at some key theorists. Who were the pioneering researchers and what was their legacy in family therapy. And then also some core ideas of family therapy. First off, the whole idea of multi-generational perspectives. How substance use disorders span across generations, and how we can identify patterns and risk factors within family systems. And then what are the dynamics of family roles, and understanding various roles within the family system and the impact of these roles on addiction and recovery. And finally, health and functioning of family members. What are the effects of addiction on individual and family health? What are some strategies for restoring family health and functioning through therapy? Now, as always, I'd like to start off with an introduction of telling you a little story about a key person. And one of the key people in family counseling is a person by the name of Dr. Murray Bowen, who is a foundational figure in family therapy. Dr. Murray Bowen was born in 1913 and died in 1990, and he was an American psychiatrist and leading figure in the development of family therapy. He was born in a rural setting in Tennessee, and Bowen pursued his medical degree at the University of Tennessee and completed his psychiatric training at the Menninger Clinic. And his career was really kind of marked by a deep interest in understanding the dynamics of family relationships and their impact on mental health. And there's some significant key ideas and theories that we get from Bowen that really carry through the discipline. The first one was that Bowen developed what we call the family systems theory, which views the family as an emotional unit and uses what we call systems thinking, which basically means if you change one thing, you change the whole thing. It's like, if you change one cog in a machine, the whole machine, the way it works, is going to change. And so he uses this family systems thinking to describe the complex interactions within the family. So according to this theory, individuals cannot be understood in isolation from their family context. People are their context. So rather, their behaviors and emotions are interconnected with the family dynamics. So you can't be treating an individual simply as an individual apart from their context. And there were also some core concepts that Bowen saw as being very essential for the development of a person. One of them is the whole idea of the differentiation of self, which basically refers to an individual's ability to maintain their sense of identity while remaining emotionally connected to their family. Now, a well-differentiated person can think and act autonomously even when faced with family pressures. And this concept is crucial in understanding how family members manage their own emotional responses and contribute to the family systems. Bowen also introduced an idea called the family projection process, where families project their own their own anxieties and their own issues onto their children. That's something that parents will do. And so this process can lead to the development of emotional problems in children, including those related to substance use disorders. One of the things that family therapy teaches us is that we need to be good ancestors, that what we are doing carries on in our children and our children's children. So we need to be mindful of what it is that we're doing. And Bowen reminds us that we shouldn't be projecting our own anxieties and issues onto our children. And then the idea of multi-generational transmission process. And this is a concept that explains how patterns of behavior, including addiction, can be transmitted across generations within a family. And Bowen suggested that these patterns are maintained through family roles and relationships, which influence the next generation's behavior and emotional functioning. So what is the legacy and impact on family therapy that Dr. Bowen had? Well, obviously he had a profound impact on the field of family therapy. His theories really kind of laid the foundation for understanding how family dynamics influence individual behavior and as well as mental health. And Bowen's approach really emphasizes the importance of considering the family as a whole system, rather than focusing solely on what we would call individual pathology or the sickness of the individual. So his concept really kind of remains central to contemporary family therapy practices and continues to influence how therapists approach substance use disorders and other mental health issues within the family context. So that's a little bit about Dr. Murray Bowen. Now, I want to dive into those basic those basic concepts that I kind of talked a little bit about here. First off, the whole idea of multi-generational perspectives. That's something that is really kind of unique to family counseling and family therapy. So we need to understand multi-generational patterns. That's something you will learn how to do within this class. Family therapy emphasizes the patterns of behavior, including substance use disorders, and the patterns that often span multiple generations. And these patterns can include, things like coping mechanisms. We catch those from our parents and our grandparents. Our communication style, we catch that from our parents and our grandparents. And role expectations, the way that we're supposed to behave, that is something we catch from our predecessors. And by examining these patterns, therapists can identify how current issues may be influenced by historical family dynamics. And then, of course, how can we change these so that we can improve the patterns that we leave behind? So again, how can we become good ancestors? And then finally, how can we identify some risk factors? Because multi-generational perspective really helps us to recognize risk factors for addictive behaviors that may have been passed down through these generations. These can include, what's our genetic predisposition? What are the family traumas that we carry? What are our learned behaviors that we carry? For instance, a family history of substance use might increase the likelihood of addiction in subsequent generations due to, first off, both genetic factors as well as environmental factors. What can we do to change those in some way? And you'd be surprised what we can do to change those. And then finally, how can we use a genogram as a tool? Well, a genogram, and we'll learn what that is a little bit more as we go through this class, but a genogram is basically a picture, a map. It's a visual representation of a family tree that includes very detailed information about family relationships and patterns across generations. And it helps therapists and clients map out family dynamics and identify recurring issues or patterns that might contribute to current problems. And genograms are a useful tool for understanding how family history impacts individual behavior and family functioning. Now, let's go on and talk a little bit about dynamics of family rules. Because there are rules within families. Family members often adopt very specific rules that contribute to the functioning of the family system. Some of us adopt a role of hero, where we're there to save people, we're there to help people. Some end up being the scapegoat, some end up being the caretaker, some of us end up being the lost child. And each role plays a part in maintaining the family's balance. But these roles can also perpetuate some unhealthy dynamics, particularly in the context of addiction. So you can kind of feel like you're trapped within your family because you're stuck in a role and no one wants to change you out of that role. And when you want to change your behavior, you obviously need to change your role. So there's an impact of roles on addiction, and that is that addiction can influence and be influenced by these family roles. So, for example, a caretaker may enable a loved one's substance use by shielding them from consequences, while a scapegoat might be blamed for family problems, exacerbating their own struggles. And understanding these roles helps therapists address the underlying dynamics and work toward healthier family interactions. So, part of what we do within family therapy is addressing and altering dysfunctional roles. And this can be really crucial for facilitating recovery. So, when we help family members recognize and modify their roles, therapists can support a more healthy relationship system and contribute to the overall recovery process. So, for example, shifting from enabling to setting boundaries can aid in breaking the cycle of addiction for someone. That would be just a small example of what we need to look at when we think of dynamics of family roles. Now, when we look at the health and functioning of different family members, remembering that families are a system, there is some clear effects of addiction on family health. It's not just for the individual. Substance use disorders can significantly impact the physical and emotional health of other family members. So things like chronic stress, emotional strain, and financial problems are common consequences of addiction that can lead to mental health issues such as anxiety and depression within family, particularly within children. So it isn't just the struggle, say for example, if you have a parent that is struggling with addiction, it isn't just that parent's struggle, it's the children's struggle as well. And so one of the goals is restoring family health. Family therapy really aims at restoring health and functioning within that family system by addressing the effects of the addiction. And so this includes improving communication skills, rebuilding trust, and developing coping strategies. And therapists work with families to create a supportive environment conducive to recovery and resilience. And of course, there's what we call the family life cycle that you need to kind of keep in mind as well, because we're always going through life changes and people are growing up and aging, and so the roles that we play need to change as well. And the family life cycle really refers to the stages a family goes through over time, such as being newly married and then parenting and then aging. Starting off in preschool and then school and then high school and then college and all of that. And addiction can disrupt these stages, but therapy can help families navigate these changes and restore stability. For example, therapy may focus on helping parents adjust to their children's addiction or supporting family members through the recovery process. So, I want to kind of just get you to reflect a little bit on your own experience. And hopefully it'll help you to kind of connect a little bit with the dynamics here. So I want you to just think about your own family background for a moment. And think about what kind of insights into the dynamics in your family systems, What would be a fact about your family and your family of origin that you can reflect upon? And how comfortable would you be in sharing that? That becomes a key part in understanding just how scary family counseling can be for someone. If you're not willing to share your family of origin story, you can understand how difficult it can be for a client to do it. So I want you to just reflect upon some basic things about your own family related to, what's your family history? What are some traditions within your family? How does your family mark out time? How does your family mark out successes? What are the roles within your family? Are there any significant events or patterns within your family that are noted as impacting how people live? And I want you to just think about those and recognize that that is part of who you are. You are part of a system, and that system helps to support you, but it can also drag you down. So we need to learn to be active agents within our family system. And that's part of what family counseling is all about, is educating and training your clients to be active agents within their family system, to recognize and adjust patterns and roles and dynamics to become more healthy, so that in the end, future generations will look at us as being good ancestors, because we broke some patterns that were maybe not quite so healthy or unhealthy. So let's just close out, and this is just a little example of what you can look for when you prep for a quiz. So the question for today would be, what is the main client in family therapy? And the answer is the family dynamic. You're not having one specific person as your client when you do family therapy. It's the thing you're trying to fix is not a person. It is the dynamic within the family to help the family, to all of them function in the best way possible and to support each other. Hope you enjoyed this lecture. This gives you just a little bit of an introduction to what you can look for within this course, and I look forward to you being a part of this course in family counseling. My name is Dr. Neil Soggie, and I will see you next week. You take care. Bye-bye.